I know Shaun Alexander has been here, there, and everywhere. For me, this is deja vu. Like, I feel like a year ago, Doug was there, Shaun was there, I was here, and we're about to talk Super Bowl.
All right, and if you can feel Dan's excitement because he is a lifelong
we
Seahawk.
talked about throwbacks last year.
Seahawk fan, and
we spoke it into existence.
and throwbacks, and the Seahawks gave us throwback jerseys that were awesome. Shaun Alexander joins us, of course, former MVP. He had 5 straight 1,000-yard seasons, led the league in touchdowns 2 different years. One of the great running backs of our lifetime. He's kind of spent some time with us here on the Doug Gottlieb Show on Fox Sports Radio. First, how are you?
I'm good, brother. How are you doing?
Good. It's good to catch up with you. I know Dan's excited as well. You know, it's interesting that here we are watching Kyle Shanahan, and in your era, his dad, his dad had kind of similar running game, and they had 7 straight 1,000-yard backs, but we're all 7 different backs.
Yeah, wasn't it crazy?
It was nuts.
Orlando Gary, what? What happened?
Can you name all 7?
Ruben Drones, what?
Ruben, Drones, right. He was from Santa Ana
Clinton Portis,
Valley
Terrell
High School.
Davis.
Clinton Portis, you got 2 more. One's in the Hall of Fame. You said Terrell Davis.
The kid that was drafted, that came in my draft, it was Mike Anderson.
Mike Anderson, good
former
call.
Marine,
yeah,
that's right.
And there's one more. I don't know who the other one is. I'll look at the other who the other one is. Let's start with the Niners. Their style of running the football, and it's interesting because it is kind of what worked back then.
Yeah.
When you see their success running it with Christian McCaffrey, what do you see running back to running back?
Well, Christian is a super talent, and I remember when he was a freshman at Stanford, Lance Taylor, who's the head coach at Western Michigan now, he called me up. He was a freshman at Bama when I was a senior, and so now he's he's a running back coach at Stanford. He says, "Hey, I've got a dude, man. I just want you to call him and encourage him." And so I've been, talking with Christian for a long time, and so to watch him play and just get better, explodes through the holes, keeps his pad leverage low. He still does the things that, we'd say the old school guys. So he actually looks like, his dad's type of running backs, you know what I mean? So that's he holds it down, and he's great. I've just been really proud of him.
Tatum Bell.
Tatum Bell. Was he Oklahoma State?
He was Oklahoma State.
Okay.
DeSoto, Texas. Tatum Bell.
All right.
I think his son's a player now, by the way. Tatum Bell. That's how old we're getting. Sorry, I know you guys were in a deep conversation.
We are getting old.
I couldn't get out of the who is the other running back? It was Tatum Bell, great one-cut runner. The running back position's super interesting, right? Because these guys obviously factor in tremendously to wins and losses in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And yet we spent the entire preseason talking about contracts and contract lengths and what's their actual value. You're out of the game now. The game has changed. The contracts have changed some. What do you think about kind of the plight of the running back?
I think that it all started, and I felt a little bit of it, having the great Mike Holmgren as our coach, and he's the offensive, mastermind behind that. And so I would say, what you're seeing today is what Mike had to go through. He has Joe Montana as a quarterback coach, Steve Young as a quarterback coach, comes over to the Green Bay Packers head coach Brett Favre, and then he gets over here. And y'all know Matt's my boy. I love him to death.
Sure.
But, there's a big difference from those 3 guys. And now, all of a sudden, the best offensive threat, it was me. And so he's like, well, Shaun, I can't just turn around and give you the ball 30 times. I'm like, if you do it, we're going to the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? And so the one year we did it, it was I had 28 carries a game. So why did he not learn to do that? It's because you don't feel like you're coaching as much if you just turn around and hand the ball. So now you have a whole decade of generation of coaches that are saying, I've got to do something to help my team win. And often it's not turn around and give the athletic running back the ball. And so you have a bunch of coaches that are, I guess they would call it earning their pay. And what it's done is it's made all the running backs like me be a little bit, we're all a little bit over 6'1", and we were all about that 2-2. They're all linebackers now. And so all the running backs are a little bit smaller, a little bit thinner, 200, 180. And they're all those guys are now, the guys are growing up playing running backs. So now you're like, the running backs don't seem like they can break all the tackles and hit the horn. Now we got to bring 2 guys to play. You got smaller guys playing tailback.
Have you rewatched Super Bowl 40?
I've only watched it once.
Did you do you watch it as a team after, or is it just no point?
We were so broken by that I was like, man, we can't even go there, because if we'd have played the Steelers, 100 times, we felt like they're only going to beat us 1 or 2 ways. we turn the ball over, and they have to break 2 long runs because they weren't even built to go on long drives. And you have the reverse pass at the end, and you have Willie Parker break the 80. I was like, the only way they could beat us was that. And so I didn't really.
So are you over the officiating thing?
Yeah, I had to block that out of mine because I've always made it a rule. Even with bad refs, if you're playing basketball or football, you got to play through that. And so if we'd have took care of the thing that we were supposed to do. Run the ball efficiently, don't turn the ball over. We didn't. So the officiating was not good.
You know what's crazy is we kind of started the show talking about how all anybody cares about, and this obviously 20 years later, is who won and who lost.
Yeah.
Right? And the perfect example is that game, and then even the AFC Championship game. I mean, everybody remembers Jerome Bettis from Detroit, but Jerome Bettis fumbled in the AFC Championship game. Could have lost them the game.
Divisional, but
was Division One.
That guy should have ran. Remember, he let Ben tackle him.
Yeah,
he let quarterback tackle you for the game.
I don't know, but again, that happens. Everything changes.
Yeah.
Or as because I'm a sports nerd, and because Dan's a huge Seahawks fan because you were in the game, we remember the officiating was awful in that game.
Yeah, they had a
But
bad
now
night.
years removed, all they say was, Ben Roethlisberger won 2 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
That's really it. He
crazy?
didn't even throw the best pass. The best pass was Antoine Randall. That was
sure
the best pass of the whole game.
Yeah.
Anyway, point is, all anybody cares about
and he didn't score on the first touchdown either.
No.
Remember that? He dove.
He didn't even get in.
He dove. Yeah. They hit the ball. He picked up and he slid it.
Yeah.
We're like, that ball eventually has to go.
Right, if that's played now.
Yeah.
There were 7 calls that I can know off the top of my head that were just absurd.
Well,
the Locklear holding, the D-Jacks.
Yeah, because you know what?
Hasselbeck trip.
The D-Jack opening drive.
Yep.
The holding on Locklear, it would have been 1st and goal on the 1. Now, we know that Seattle's not been doing that good after that, but you already know. We were built different.
You would have ran it,
we would have left the huddle.
This is a random aside question you probably haven't been asked, so forgive me if it takes your brain a second. Alabama. People forget that Alabama, when you were there, I visited there in basketball. There was a 20-year stretch where they weren't dominant, right? Now you lose Saban, and I'm sure Kalen DeBoer is a hell of a coach.
Yeah.
But there's only one Saban.
Yeah.
What do you think that program looks like these next 5 years when you're trying to replace, I think, arguably or inarguably, the greatest coach of this generation?
I think the way that we did it. So you remember Gene Stallings was there in 92 and they won it.
Yeah, he had that one great.
And they had that great team, 93, 94, and 96. 96 was my freshman year. We're 12-1. What our only loss was to the Gators, and the Gators won it 1 year, and I think they lost to Florida State 93, and in 96 they won it. So they were still in the hunt, and he leaves after that. I thought, man, he's going to find some other kids to come play with us, and we're going to go win it, while I was there. But we brought in a great friend of mine, Mike Dubose, and he just was very similar to Coach Stallings, but he wasn't Coach Stallings, so it didn't really work. I think the best thing Alabama's done with Coach DeBoer is they've brought in somebody that's smart, has a game plan, but it's totally different than Coach Saban, because you got to be able to own your own stuff. And I feel like if they got a shot to go win, it's going to be with a coach like him that's been good, has always won, is bold enough to kind of do it his way and not have to try to do it with somebody's won, because it was hard. Like, you'd hear some of the speeches back with Bama, and it was hard being like, man, Coach Stallings said that a little bit better,
Yeah.
And so I think they've made a good hire, and I think that Coach DeBoer, what he did with Washington was amazing, because I know even though a lot of kids transferred, the backups he's looking at are still better than, I'm thinking, how many players for UW would have been on Bama's team last year? Maybe 3, so I think he's going to be in a good place.
Tell me about your work with Stand Together and the Stand Together Foundation and Cafe Momentum. Now, I know Cafe Momentum, there's a couple of them.
Yeah.
Right? And it's at-risk youth, and they go and work at a restaurant. How does it work with the Stand Together Foundation?
So the Stand Together Foundation is it's a wonderful group of people, about 800 of some of the most successful businessmen, women, and philanthropic leaders in the country. And they put their talents, they've put some of their finances together to go tackle some of the country's biggest issues. And one of them is the juvenile justice system. And so they found Cafe Momentum, which is an award-winning restaurant started by Chad Hauser. He was working at his own restaurant, did a juvenile thing when they taught some kids how to make some ice cream. And those kids just touched his heart. And he realized, man, people are assuming that these 14, 15, 16-year-old kids are throwaways. That's what the names are, some of the kids in the juvenile system. And he said what they really need is some social workers, some psychologists, some mommies and daddies, aunties and uncles around them to encourage them. And recidivism in our country is about 45 to 50%. That means they're going to go back to prison. The thousands of kids that have been through Catholic it's 11%.
Oh, wow.
And so as I'm watching this with Chad and Stand Together has helped come up with the think process and also some of the funding. I said, why don't we put one of these in every NFL city? And so what we started 4 or 5 years ago now was just in Dallas. Now we have Nashville, we have Pittsburgh. We're about to open up Denver. Atlanta's next, so those are going to be the next 2. We've got the grounds laid for Houston, Tampa, and Miami, so in LA. And so it's really exciting because we're changing the juvenile justice system instead of a kid getting in trouble. And the truth is, some of those kids did stuff that deserves punishment, but I always say this, like, how many of us really want to have a life sentence for something we did at 16 or 17? I'm like, none of us, right? I don't even want people to know, And so we're now giving some kids a chance, and they got work to do. And they go through the program, and a lot of kids succeed and figure out who they really are.
Go to cafemomentum.org/Super Bowl. That's cafemomentum.org/Super Bowl. Shaun, it's always great to catch up. Can we set the date?
Super Bowl 59,
Wednesday, a year from now.
Right.
We'll see you.
We have it going on now.
Fair enough. And we'll talk mini helmets and throwback jerseys, Seahawks, and hopefully next year in the Hall of Fame as well. That would be,
man, it's time, man. I want to have a good conversation about that because I tried to keep that out of my mind.
Well, I did. I mean, I'll just be honest with you. Like, I didn't know to bring it up, to not bring it up.
Yeah.
Like, what do you say? I mean, I do think that when you have a Terrell Davis get in, it opens the door, right? Because the whole thing is over.
That's right.
My thing is, like, you can't be in a Hall of Fame if you weren't the best in the sport.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree with that.
Right? You got to be to be a Hall of Fame. You got to be the best in the sport, and then how long you have to sustain that? That's really the argument.
Yeah.
And you had 5 years, where 1 year where you were definitely the best player in the sport, and then 5 years where you're in any conversation the best in the sport.
I would agree with that. Yeah, and it's kind of wild because I always try to keep a humble posture. We've been doing this for many times, but at times they're like, "Oh, you had those great offensive linemen," and I'm like, "I did," but when you're the number 1 player in high school, then you go to Alabama and you break all those records and you're the best running back ever to play in the school.
It's not like you only played well when you had Walter Jones.
Yeah,
right.
Then
like
you get to
Hutchinson.
when you get Walton Hutch, you're like, oh, great. But in my mind, I was like, great. I hope you guys do your job, and they did.
Yeah.
And you look at that, and I always think back to like Tom Brady was always good, Randy Moss was always good, but when they got together.
They're amazing.
That's what happened with us. We were good. Everybody was good separate, but when we got Hutch and Walt together, it went to another level.
That's cafemomentum.org. We'll continue this next year.
Yeah, we
same
will.
bad time, same bad channel. Shaun, you're the best.
Hey, all right, brothers.
It's awesome.
Go Hawks.
Yeah.
Doug Gottlieb Show rolls on here on Fox Sports Radio.